Hello, everybody. I'm Maurice Brown on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. You're listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. And we're going to have an actress on our show today on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. And you may be familiar with her, ladies and gentlemen. She's an actress who currently plays Detective Chris Tanner on one of the hottest programs in internationally known faith-based television, translated into 11 languages, Vindication. Vindication is currently filming season 4, and seasons 1, 2, and 3 can be seen on Redeem TV and on PureFlix in October. You can see it on Redeem TV now, October on PureFlix. If you haven't seen it yet, you're missing something special. This crime drama seems to run along the same lines as NCIS, Blue Bloods, and Law and Order, but it really doesn't. It's a story about everyday people who deal with life's everyday problems by turning to the Bible for answers. It's less about police work and way more about the work of Christ in people's lives. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome to the show the very talented actress Venus Monique. Hello, Venus. How are you?
Hello, Maurice. I'm great. I'm so happy to be back.
And I am so glad that you can make it back to the show. We've had a number of conversations through the years as you've journeyed. We've all, as viewers, have journeyed through Vindication, a great faith-based crime drama that is sorely needed, I think, in faith-based TV or just TV in general.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, Venus, and I know you can't talk a lot about it, but season 4 is actually underway, and it's. I know you can't say anything about it. I don't want you to give any spoilers away, just to let the audience know the production of season 4 of Vindication is underway. So I know, Venus, you can't really talk about that, so I will not put you on the spot with a question regarding that.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So let's, because you're into season 4, the filming process. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 are in the books, and again, you can see season 3 on Redeem TV. And I want to rewind to season 1, if I may, and ask you about one of the episodes. It was episode 2 in season 1. And I know you had not appeared on this particular show at this point in time, but I saw an interview with Jared O'Flaherty, the creator of Vindication, along with Macy McLean, who also participated in episode 2. And it was mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, this is a cutting-edge crime, faith-based crime drama that if you have not seen, I advise you to go out and find a way to see it on PureFlix or Amazon Prime. It is groundbreaking. But it was mentioned that this episode had been turned down at a few film festivals because of the scene which dealt with teenage sexting. I was actually surprised to hear that because I thought the subject matter was handled quite well, and it's a real problem in our society right now. Do you think faith-based entertainment needs to be willing to address matters that are more cutting edge?
For that episode, I don't think it was so much the content of sexting that was turned down. From my understanding, it was more about the scene. There's one scene where she's in the restroom, and I think they didn't want to show that scene. And if you take that scene out, you kind of lose the context of what's going on. Right. I think from what I remember, it was the scene, that particular one, that kept them from being, or kept that episode from being shown. But I absolutely think that content like that needs to be addressed. Things that are happening in our world as is and that are happening in our younger generation, those things need to be addressed in some way. And a lot of times coming at it from a storyline or entertainment is a really good way to address it without it being super awkward. But it allows, like, episodes like that allow that conversation to start. and what if and what would happen and how would we handle that. So I absolutely think stuff like that needs to be addressed.
I totally agree with that, and I I mean, I'm telling you, I didn't even see anything that was that startling, quite frankly
Right.
and honestly. When you look at the
It's
landscape,
done so well.
it's just done so well. I think there's a point where you have to be willing to meet the problem without, getting unnecessarily immersed in the problem.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think faith-based entertainment is squeamish about meeting it. It's like you got to meet the problem. The problems,
hmm
are there, and people that are actually involved with the issue can't be helped if we're not willing to address it.
Yeah. And it's I think more interesting to watch stories where you can relate to what the problem is, where you've either been there, done that, or know about that. And so where a production meets that, it's like, oh, I'm interested because I've been in those shoes before. I wonder how they're going to handle it. Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from, Maurice.
Yeah, and again, I wanted you to kind of expound on it just a little bit because the entire uh, series is really willing. Jared is willing to go into areas that a lot of faith-based
Yeah.
entertainment is not willing to go to, and I think that's what makes the show so special.
hmm
Because I mentioned during the introduction, it's like NCIS or Blue Bloods or Law and Order. I mean, it's very similar, but yet it's not going in the same direction,
Right. Yeah.
which
And
is
it blows me away that Jared's been able to talk about so many different situations that are sensitive, that are kind of like risky, but he does it in a way that he doesn't really push an agenda. He just gets you thinking about it, thinking about the issue, the problem, the circumstance, whatever it is, and then you can go and figure out what are my thoughts on that, and oh, that kind of changed my mind on that a little bit. But it's not like he's really pushing you in any direction. He's just willing, like you said, to push to that line to bring it up so that those kinds of things are not just hush hush. They're actually getting out on the table so they can be talked about.
100%. And I talked with Jared a couple of weeks ago about season 3, and it is underway. You can watch it, ladies and gentlemen, on Redeem TV. By the way, you're listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show with actress Venus Monique on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. I want to actually allow people who are not really familiar with Vindication. I want to allow people to see and hear more specifically, as we are on Bog Radio, the trailer of season 3, which I found to be it's just so compelling. And I want to give our audience, Venus, if you don't mind, a
No?
sneak peek of season 3 through the trailer, which again you can see on Redeem TV.
What we're about to share with you, you cannot tell anyone. Not your best friend, not your priest, not your dog, not your wife. Nobody can know right now.
Yeah, I understand.
Single gunshot wound, close range. They recovered a 9mm hollow point round from the chest cavity.
Right now, all the evidence points to one place.
This is a manhunt. Suspect be considered armed and dangerous.
He isn't guilty of anything.
Something's going on.
I'm just wondering why they ain't came and got me yet.
Someone is out to get your husband. I don't know why. Maybe you do.
Who did you meet with today?
We don't have enough on Thomas. He's always one step out of reach.
What's the plan? Some new alleys where we grow the most, not the mountaintops.
What do you do with that knowledge? What does it change?
Things will last forever. That's what matters most.
I absolutely love it. I
Mhm.
absolutely love it. I love
It's
that.
so good.
It is so awesome. And as you well know, I mean, I love that show. And I'll tell you, Steve Mokate,
Yes.
we had an opportunity to see as the series progresses, as we're now into season 3.
Mhm.
We had an opportunity to see how much depth Steve Mokate has as an actor.
Oh yeah.
What is it
Mhm.
like working with Steve?
Oh my gosh. It's so funny how much he's hated by the audience, which is great. That means he's doing his job well.
He's doing his job
But-
very well.
But behind the scenes, he's such a jokester. He's so much
Yeah.
fun. He's so lighthearted, and he just turn it on and off. But then he comes and he plays that mean guy, and you're like, oh, you're a little turd.
You know, the thing about Steve Mokate's character is he kind of he does it in a way that is so nonchalant,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and he kind of gives you a snippet of his humorous side as he's just kind of like going through his role being this evil guy
Mhm.
who has no feeling whatsoever about right and wrong.
Mhm.
I mean, he plays it really well.
He does.
And we get a chance to see that as again the series progresses, we get to see more of Steve Mokate, and he puts his acting skills on showcase there. It's really awesome. And then, of course, you've got Todd Terry, you've got Peggy Schott, Cameron Arnett returns, and of course Todd Terry,
Mhm.
who's
Oh yeah.
who is really the face
Yes.
of Vindication.
And
Does a
such a great guy, so humble, so kind. Like you wouldn't even know that he's the lead on a great show because he's just so like your neighborhood guy. He's so kind to everyone. It doesn't go to his head. He's just a wonderful person.
Well, Todd Terry as Detective Gary Travis is the face of Vindication. And I tell you, he's so good. And I think the faith-based world owes a debt of gratitude to his willingness to be or devote it to faith-based entertainment. He could be a secular actor very easily.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, he does do some secular work as well. But it's so good to have him doing faith-based work. You're right, because he's so good at what he does.
Well, and when I say that, it's like Todd kind of, I mean, if he just wanted to focus totally on secular,
Yeah.
he could easily do that, but he doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he works for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, and I think that we're blessed to have a guy of his talent, you know, being the face of the show, because it could very, and I'm going to get to this question later on, but he just does a great job. Jared O'Flaherty as a creator comes up with so many different scenarios that, you know, they're edgy.
Yeah.
Quite frankly and honestly, they're edgy, and you want that as a Christian. You want to see entertainment that's going to push the envelope. Push it. Let's see how far we can go here and make a difference, because it's all about the secular viewer anyway.
Yeah, right. Right, because that light and fluffy, and I think that light and fluffy Christian stories are nice, but I think, like you just said, you only reach a certain audience with the light and fluffy. When you reach the realistic and the dirty, that's when you're reaching more people than just those who are already saved and know Jesus.
I think Anthony Hackett, who directed the film Love Different, which I had the privilege of being a part of in 2016 with Jen Gotson and Tommy Ford, and I had him on one of my shows, and Anthony made the comment that, you know, there's a place for light and fluffy. There's a place for light and fluffy, you know, the Hallmark Channel and most of the programming up here, Flick. There's a place for that. And then, but there's another place where we need to devote to being more gritty and just being on the very cutting edge, which is something I think the secular world is really waiting for faith-based entertainment to do. And get into, and that's that. I think, to be totally honest, I think that Jared has kind of set a template for others going forward as to how to do that. One of the
and
things,
not just in, I'm sorry, it's not just in storyline, but also in quality. I mean, the quality that Jared's done Vindication with is just such high caliber. You don't see that often in faith-based films until that production has been around for a while and has learned some things. But Jared's still he's relatively new. I think this is maybe his third project, but the quality that he brings to the show is just like, wow, that's amazing. That's great. Makes you want to watch it.
Jared really brings a high quality to TV, and he's so humble. Is the thing about Jared. He's a very humble guy. One of the things I love about the show is that it's not, as we've already stated, not afraid to address heavy topics. But I think the toughest episode to deal with in a manner that doesn't cross the line, I think it was also on season 1. It may have been season 2. And it was about predatory behavior where there were teens that were being photographed, some of which without their knowledge, as they were, undressing and, just taking provocative, exotic photos and so forth. And the guy was a dirtbag. And there are dirtbags out there that do this. And the episode dealt with that. Jared got in that was a really brave sortie that Jared made into that subject matter, because a lot of Christians are squeamish about that kind of thing, but it needed to be discussed. It needed to be addressed. Jared did. What was it like? Because I think you were one of the detectives handling that case along with Gary Travis. What was it like putting scenes together for that episode?
Yeah, that was a good one. I enjoyed speaking to the different actresses that were playing, or actors and actresses that were playing those roles, because they had, if you've seen the episode, they have the role that they're going in as before the photographs, and then they have what they become after the photographs. And it was really interesting from my point of view to see them as actors change in that way, because that's what we as actors want, is we want to be able to show our emotional range. And I don't particularly put the scenes together, but I do enjoy how it's all strung together to create this beautiful story that Jared tells. And it's so neat, and it brings up the topic of discernment and how we really need discernment in what we're doing, especially when we're pursuing certain things. So I'm thankful that one was addressed too, because when I read these scripts, I don't know what Jared's going to write. And so I read the next script and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, what a topic. Oh my gosh, another good one. So yeah.
And I also forgot to mention T.C. Stallings, who's a part of the series, and he was a part of this particular episode. It's T.C. joined Vindication in season 2 and has stayed with it. But no, I just love the fact that he got into that subject matter, and it is squeamish for a lot of Christians. I want to ask you this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show with actress Venus Monique on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. Venus, from a faith perspective, did, to your knowledge, Vindication receive any backlash from the Christian community for addressing some of the topics?
To my knowledge, no. In fact, I think the opposite. I think so many Christians were thankful to have a show that touched on real subjects that we deal with in the day-to-day. I think it was nice for everyone to experience a show that's like, hey, you're going to address this issue, but you're also going to make it in a way that's comfortable for me to watch, comfortable for me to share. I can, promote it and not think like, oh no, I'm promoting something that somebody shouldn't watch. And so I think we actually got a really great response from the Christian audience and a lot of secular. I mean, I know in the first season, at least, our reviews on Amazon, a lot of people watched it and then they would rate us poorly once they figured out that it was a Christian show. So they enjoyed it, and then the stars were like, oh, but it was blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of knocked the ratings. But it was like, but you watched it up until that point. You watched that many episodes and you enjoyed it. So that tells me that it was reaching the secular market, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think it was definitely reaching the secular market. When you're watching Vindication, you don't know that it is faith-based.
Right.
And, in the beginning, as the episode gets deeper, then you start to realize that it is faith-based. But by that time, you're hooked.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. By that time, it's like, you don't care. I got to see what's going to happen. A lot of the episodes are set up that way. And so yeah, I think it's a great way to draw people in. And then of course you do have those detractors that don't want to talk about God at all, and of course they will fall off. But most people are too invested a lot of times, to just stop. That's the great value in the show and the way that Jared has set that up.
And what's interesting is that happens right, like in episode 1. I've heard so many people that were just going to watch the first episode and go to sleep, but they were just going to watch that so they could say they watched it. And then 4, 5, 6 episodes later, they're like, I can't stop watching, and it's 4 a.m. Oh no, I binged the entire season. I wasn't planning on that, but it's just, it really does. It hooks you.
And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you out there that have never heard of Vindication, hey, listen, go to PureFlix, okay? Get a subscription to PureFlix or download the app on your phone. Go download the Redeem TV app on your phone or your computer, or go to Amazon Prime. Go to Amazon. You can buy the whole series right now and watch this from the very beginning. And
yes, that's the best way.
If you are a Christian, you will be in for quite a treat.
Yeah,
I'm telling you right now, you'll be in for quite a treat. I think that Vindication is still becoming aware to a lot of people out there that the show exists. And when people find out about it and they give it a sample, they're usually hooked. It's that good. So I just wanted to put that out there for those that have never seen Vindication. You play Detective Chris Tanner on the show, and you came in to the series around episode 4 or 5, and you've been there throughout, and you've been through a lot of ups and downs. We get a chance to see Detective Chris Tanner's life, who's a major part of Vindication. How did you land that role, Venus?
It's funny. That was all God. I was a host at a Christian film festival in Austin, Texas, and Jared was showing the first episode of Vindication, which at that time it wasn't an episode, it was just a short film. And they were going to show it at that film festival and then just call it good. Like they were done, they had done the festival run, this was their last festival, they were going to move on. But they got such a good response at that film festival that they continued. And so Jared had already done some research on me before coming to the festival. So he knew that I won a Best Actress award the year before. He watched, I guess I had been doing a lot of YouTube videos. So he watched all my YouTube videos. And so by the time he got there, I don't know when, but he had talked to the guys about if this continues, I'd like to bring her on as a detective. And so he talked to me and he was like, hey, if this continues and goes into more episodes, would you be interested in playing a detective? And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. And I didn't really know Jared, but I saw the one episode, and of course I wanted to be a part of that. And so I didn't hold my breath, but a few months later, actually when God called me out of acting, Jared was like, hey, that role is ready. I know that God called you out of acting, but do you still want it? Do you need to pray about it? And I was like, yes, I need to pray about that because I know that God took me out of acting, but I also know that he set me up for Vindication. So I'm not quite sure where this is going. But the next day, God gave me a very clear-cut answer. And so I called Jared and I was like, I'm in. I got that okay. So, yeah.
Well, we're so glad that you agreed to be a part of it. And you mentioned winning an award. You've won an award of recent import here over the last couple of months or so.
I've been nominated for an award at Content Film Festival, a Best Actress for TV and something. I'll have to go look at it. But yeah, so it's a nomination, but the awards will actually be announced in a couple of weeks, I believe.
Well, I love it. And, the International Christian Film Festival held in Orlando, Florida every year, run by Marty Jean-Louis, who does just a fabulous job with that.
I've been wanting to go to that one. Yeah.
But you listen, Vindication is represented every year. They're going, the International Christian Film Festival is going into its 11th year. This is like the Christian Oscars. I mean, you see the Kendrick brothers there, the Kevin Sorbo, the Irwin brothers. You see Jen Gotson and Cameron Arnett, a lot of the top faith-based actresses and actors, screenwriters and directors, they're there. Bob
Yeah.
Saenz was there. I could go on and on, but it's a great event held every year in May in Orlando, and hopefully you can make it next year. I have a feeling Vindication will be represented well again. Jared just does a fine job. Matter of fact, this past May, I think Vindication cleaned up there. But that being said, it began as a short film. The beginning of this whole thing, Jared just created a standalone 30-minute, film. And all of a sudden, it just morphed into what it's become today. Tell us about that journey of how it actually became a series.
Yeah, I kind of think it goes in line with what we were talking about earlier. When God calls you to the first thing and you do that and you're obedient, then it's like you allow him to continue to open doors and grow that thing into what you had no idea it could become. And so I think just Jared's obedience and saying, okay, here's a story. I want to glorify God. He's got all his church people involved in that first, I think in his very first film, it was church people, it was volunteers. And then it grew to this vindication thing, and he found more people, and it just grew from there. And so story after story and encouragement after encouragement, he's got support, and he's got people saying, hey, we want more. We want more. This is good. This is different. This is addressing things that we haven't seen. And so just continuing to create that. And then Jared's got this vision for these new characters and bringing in Matt Holmes and bringing in Candace Kirkpatrick and bringing in these different characters that build the story even more. And then delving into each of the characters' lives to see what's going on, not just from the procedural crime drama standpoint, but what's happening to them as a personal, behind the scenes in their personal lives. And so then you have the story of Chris and her brother and what she's going through, and just all of these different situations that the characters are facing. And it just enriches the overall story so much more. So it's just a continuation of good ideas and excellence.
By the way, what was the young man's name that played your brother?
In real life?
In the series.
Chance. Chance.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I'm blanking. I think it's Gibson. Oh my gosh, Chance, don't kill me. His real name is Chance.
Well,
Gibbs.
He was very good, and he didn't say a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He didn't say a lot, but it was something about
Gibbs.
the way that he carried himself throughout that season one was, and it was quite interesting the way that he did that, and into season two. And speaking of someone that speaks very loudly with facial expressions, I've got to mention this actress's name, who's a fine actress and plays the wife of Gary Travis, and that's Peggy Schott.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what it's like working with Peggy Schott.
You know what, Maurice? I think Peggy and I have been in one scene together, two maybe. We had the one scene where I go to their house and we have a lunch, and I think we have the funeral scene. So Peggy and I haven't gotten to work a lot, but because we are both around Austin, we've been doing film together a lot. So we've been on other projects together. She is so sweet. She's so kind. She's such a connector. She loves to meet people and introduce them to other people. And she's just so good on set. I love Peggy. She's a great human.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have an episode from seasons 1 and 2. I love both seasons, but I have one particular episode from each season that I absolutely love. Now, in season 2, it was Perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, it's one of the few times at the end of it where I went, yes! Yes, Peggy! She just killed it. Her acting in that particular episode, Venus, was tremendous. And she has a way of making facial expressions that equal her ability to just speak it. I mean, she's a very good actress. but her facial expressions enhance a lot of what she does. And Perspectives, which was dealing with race, I thought.
Oh, okay. I was trying to think. I'm like, Maurice, I don't know the names of the episodes. I'm just in them. Okay, so that's the one with the tractor.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
it's awesome.
Okay.
Oh, I love that episode. That featured TC Stallings and Gary Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And their characters inevitably had to collide because of the subject matter. And the way that Jarrett did that particular episode, I mean, it was just a bravo.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I know.
And
you know what? And the other one too that he did so well. And I remember reading the script, and at the end of the script, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what a perfect ending!" Was the boy who was struggling with same-sex thoughts? I think or he was gay. He was gay. Do you remember that one? The hunting trip.
Oh yeah, I remember that absolutely.
And and I was just reading that, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Jared, this is so great!" Like the way you ended it was it was beautiful.
And you know what? Speaking of that, that's another cutting edge subject matter that Jared was willing to address.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now he did not he brought it to the fore, at least.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the way that it had to be dealt with. I mean, the father, and we're not going to give you guys too much of it, but the father was put on the clock there.
Yeah.
And when you're put in a situation like that, where a child, has fallen prey to the devil and his calling and what have you, and it's we live in a society now where young people don't know if they're a boy or a girl, and all types of confusion in our society today, which goes against the way God made us. And Jarrett was willing to kind of bring that up, and that episode was also very good. I love the way that he set that one up. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. We're talking with Venus Monique of the hit crime drama Vindication, a series you can see on Redeem TV, Pure Flix, and Amazon Prime. You got to see it. It's faith-based. It's just like NCIS or Blue Bloods or Law and Order. You got to see it. And if you have seen it, you're probably going, more, encore. But Venus, thank you so much for being on the show. And I wanted to also ask you, we were talking about episodes. Season 1, I said, in season 2, I loved episode 4. In season 1, I loved episode 5. Episode 5 was just amazing. You're talking about, describing how you think things are going to go one way, only to find out they're going that way.
Yeah.
And was this the general mindset of Vindication and showing us how God teaches us lessons about false assumptions?
I kind of don't think that Jared's intention was, let me tell stories where God's trying to teach the lesson of that. I think his idea was, you know what? It's always easy to figure out a crime drama. Every crime drama you watch, it's easy to figure out. You know where it's going. You know how it's going to end. And his thought was, I want to put a twist on it, and I want to get you going in the other direction. But in doing that, he did create those scenarios where you do find yourself assuming a certain outcome. And then it's like a little twist, and you're like, oh, okay, whoops, heart check for me, because I was following along that path. And it's funny you say that, though, because I think it was after season 1, I told Jared, because I know, people do support shows, but they also support messages. And so we were talking, and I was like, I feel like Vindication's message is like, our hashtag should be challenge your assumptions, or like that should be our tagline, is challenge your assumptions. And then I think it was maybe a couple of months ago. So season 2 has been out, season 3 is aired. And Jared said something about our hashtag is going to be check your assumptions or something like that. And I was like, well, hey, Jared, way to bring it in. And he was like, are you the one that put that in my head? And I was like, yeah, but it's been a couple of years. But it really does. It's like that whole you really are you find yourself feeling the same way as the character in the show, and then it's like, whoops, and you realize, oh my gosh, I was judging them, I was doing this, I was doing that, and kind of like shame on me because I was assuming something and I shouldn't have. So
Yes.
it's a great twist. Almost with every episode, it's a great twist.
This particular episode was huge for me. It talked about the torrid relationship that Detective Gary Travis had with his daughter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With his adult daughter.
Mhm.
And that was intertwined within, like I said, it seemed like the story's going this way, and all of a sudden it makes a quick turn the other way.
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, you think there's something sinister going on, something drug related is going on. I mean, after all, the character is heavily involved at one point in his past, and
Mhm.
there he goes again, and then all of a sudden, oh no, it is absolutely the opposite of that, and the audience doesn't see that coming. And
Yeah.
it humbles everyone. And there is
Right.
a Bible study group involved there with a group of ladies. Mrs. Travis was holding.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, and and so that one that Bible study. One thing I'll say too about, and it was involved in the episode, was how Bible studies can sometimes be a cover for gossiping.
Right. I was just going to say that. And I haven't particularly been involved in many of those, but I do know it happens. And it was such a smart thing, I think, for Jared to bring to the forefront. Because even though it happens, I would never have thought that it would have been something that you would see in a show. And it
Yes.
probably is in shows, but it's just like, oh gosh, well done on that. Because you're right. It was, oh, please pray for her. But really, I want to share this with y'all. Gonna tell you
Yes,
the
that's what was
scoop.
happening.
Hmm.
That's exactly what was happening, and I think it happens in Christendom quite often. And a lot of times, it's not premeditated. I think that
Hmm.
we really believe in some cases that we're praying and not gossiping. But if we really reined it in and thought about it, there are probably different ways
Right.
to pray for someone, even as a group, rather than just kind of putting someone's business out there. Excuse
Right.
me, someone's business out there, and that's kind of what occurred in that episode as well. So there were a lot of intertwining storylines in that one episode that I thought was awesome. And again, getting back to the torrid relationship between Gary Travis and his daughter, and,
Mm.
and it didn't in this episode rectify their problem, but it went a long way in doing so,
Right. Hmm.
because he had to come to terms with his own uh, refusal and reluctance to kind of allow things to maybe be something other than what he, instead of running or rushing to a conclusion,
Right.
assuming that a person has done wrong, when if you had just stopped for a second and thought about it, you would have realized they didn't do anything wrong. And I think we're all guilty of that in life as well. We rush
Yeah.
to assumptions.
Right. And it's like that whole you can't always judge someone by their past. Like, give
No.
people room to change and grow.
Yes.
Just like God washes away, he like wipes our slate clean, and he doesn't
Yes.
hold that against us. Just because it looks like we're doing X, Y, D, Z and we have that in our past doesn't mean that we are. Like, erase that. Stop holding that chain to my ankle and let me be who I've become. But so many people want to hold others to who they were. And it's such a sad, I think, state of affairs sometimes.
It's really cool, and I'll move on. But the one thing I really loved was the relationship between the father and daughter. It wasn't so much that the daughter was greatly impacted in the end. It was the humility that the father finally swallowed, was
Yeah.
beginning to understand he'd been a real jerk.
Hmm.
He was beginning to understand that, I've really got to come down off my high horse here. And that was the power in that scene. But I'm gonna leave. I just loved it. I loved the entire show.
Yeah.
And there's just a couple of episodes that just really stood out like, whoa, that was an amazing episode. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're jealous, just go download the Redeem TV app or the PureFlix app, or subscribe to PureFlix, or go to Amazon Prime and just buy this series, okay? And then you won't have to listen to me going, what is Maurice talking about? Why are you doing this to me? Just go get the app. Anyway, we're going to move on. You got to see it. Folks, I'm serious. You got to go out and see this crime drama. It's absolutely a groundbreaking crime drama in Christian entertainment. You're listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks, talking with actress Venus Monique. Venus, can you envision Vindication on a secular platform?
Yeah, I really can. I think it's that good. I think it's got the strong enough storylines, and I think it's got the production quality that a secular network would desire. So I absolutely can. I think there's a market for it. I think there's an audience for it, Christian and non-Christian.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Well, you look at if you look at the seasons now, because Jared's working on season 4, but in order to get to like a Hulu, to get to a Netflix, for example, or an Apple TV, what have you, it's like you have to start getting a bulk of seasons, and then all of a sudden because people love to binge watch.
Right.
I mean, we're in a binge watching age. So you can get like 5 or 6 seasons of Vindication, and it's building momentum. I could definitely see it on a Netflix. I've seen a couple of movies on PureFlix that are actual. Jen Gotson has a film on Netflix now that was originally on PureFlix. I think it's called Forgiven. But there's definitely potential for it. Again, it looks like a secular platform. I just believe very soon in the future we're going to see Vindication on a Netflix or Hulu. It's just my personal belief and prayerful thinking. You are not only an actress, but you are also involved with something called Personal Powerhouse. Tell us about that, Venus.
Yeah. Personal Powerhouse is my business that God had me start. And it's one of those things, again, like we were talking about earlier, how you just become obedient with that first thing and let him open the doors and grow this thing into what you couldn't imagine. And so Personal Powerhouse has become a kind of like a mentoring place and a community for young Christian actresses and adult Christian actresses. And so we had some monthly membership, and we get on our video meetings, and we discuss all kinds of topics. We talk about our faith, we talk about integrity, we talk about the film industry and growing our careers and how to do this. And we have guest speakers, and when we see each other in person, like content film festivals coming up. And it's so exciting to know that when you go to this festival, you're going to see all your sisters, and some you've only gotten to see on our video conferences, and now you're going to get to see them in real life. So it's a real tight-knit community of just amazing women who are living out their calling in this industry, because God's called us to be actresses for whatever reason. So we're all trying to do our best at that. And I know when I first started, I didn't really have anyone. I didn't have a community. I especially didn't have a community of Christian actresses to like bounce ideas off of and say, hey, what would you do in this situation? Or what would you do in that one? I was going at it alone. And so that's kind of where my heart to create this came from, was if I struggled with that, I know that there are others also. And so when I opened up the second membership for the older actresses, I thought just a couple of women would be interested. Oh no, I had so many submissions come through of women who wanted to be a part of it. I didn't bring on everyone because it was specifically for actresses at that point, not for anyone in the industry. But the submissions were so big. I was like, wow, God, I didn't know this many women needed community. So yeah.
Do you think that in this modern era of technology and advancement that young people, young adults, are having more difficulty trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives versus maybe 30 years ago?
Oh, I'm sure. And I think partially because the options seem to have increased with technology. It's not just you can choose a field that's physical. There's also an online field, and there's so many things you can do online. So it's kind of like, what am I going to do? I'm good at so many things now. Where do you want me to be, God? And so just following him really should be the thing that we're doing, but we've got the world throwing all these things at us in the sense of, this one's going to get you more popular. This one's going to get you more money. This one's going to get you more of that. And so trying to narrow that down to say, okay, God, you created me right now. Why? What is my purpose? What would you like me to do while I'm here?
You had more of, and I'll go back, 30, 40 years ago or more. I'm 59. So you had more of the mentality of the bird in the nest mentality of just throwing the chick out of the nest after a certain point. Now go fend for your own. You're 18 now, or you're 21 now. Go live your life, and even go figure it out. In some cases, and the opportunities were not nearly as vast at that time as they are now, and you have more of a willingness for mom and dad to kind of nurture the quote unquote chicks in the nest way past.
Yeah.
But yet, and still, it seems to be more difficult for them to figure out what they want to do. And I think the fact that you're addressing it through Personal Powerhouse is awesome. It's a great thing to do. I just think, even though I'm from a much simpler time, I think the difficulties that young people face are far greater than when I was coming along.
And I think parents have a huge role in that, because of how much technology is out and because of the access to so many pieces of information. I think it's easy to pacify our young people with electronics and technology, but at the same time, there also needs to be a protective aspect, because it is so vast and it is so easy to get caught up in something that's not good. And so
absolutely.
It's just like this balance of, you are the parent, you do want to help them, grow and everything, but also there's just there's this balance of protection and figure it out for yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Venus, we've been talking about your participation in Vindication, which you're doing a fabulous job as Detective Chris Tanner.
Thanks.
Do you have anything coming up on the horizon in film?
There's an episodic that I'm really hoping gets picked up soon. There's two, actually. So one of them is called Safe Point, and it's about a Christian gamer. So it's about video games, which I love, because I feel like gamers is an untapped market. I don't see many shows or movies about gamers, maybe movies, but this one's a comedy. And so the Christian gamer, which I play the wife of the Christian gamer, so I'm the lead, he's the lead. We're atheist. He plays with a Christian gamer, and eventually one of them influences the other. So the atheist gamer and the Christian gamer. And it's this comedy of that story and how it impacts the different lives. And so Josh Cox is the writer, director of that one. And he's been going to different film festivals and pitching it. And we're fixing to have a premiere of the first episode. So I'm excited to see that. But I'm really hoping that one gets picked up, because I love the storyline of that. And I also love that when I was talking to Josh while we were filming, we were talking about fasting, and he had told me that he fasted twice for this project because he knew God was calling him to it. He wanted to do it well. And I'm like, you know what? If you're somebody who takes it seriously enough that you're fasting because of it, that tells me all I need to know about how you serve and how serious you're taking this thing that God put on your heart. So I'm just ultra thankful to be partnering with somebody who takes their faith seriously enough to fast for that. So I can't wait to see where that one goes.
I can't. I can't either. I love the premise. I love the premise, and I think that that has some legs to it.
I do too.
As you know, I'm a stand-up comic. I was in Boca Raton a few years ago, and I had a comedian buddy go up there and do a set, and he talked about a story where he had been playing video games all night long. And about 6 in the morning, the person on the other end who was whipping him had been whipping him all night in this game. It's, I guess about 6 in the morning. He said, "Sir, I've got to go. My mom says it's time to get ready for school."
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
That's
man.
so funny.
That perfectly describes the gamer
Mhm.
deal in America. I mean, I'm telling you, everybody loves it, and I love it too. But I can't give in to my desires because I would be a basket case. I don't. But you know, I play occasionally with my 24-year-old. What I used to play with him when he was younger. But no, I
Mhm.
love the premise of Save Point. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people would be that has some legs.
I think so too. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be praying for you guys on that, and fasting and praying. Let me tell you, it blows the cover off things.
Oh,
I
it
mean, when you
does.
really need an answer, God moves very quickly when you do that.
Yeah.
Read
It's
the
a
book.
powerful, right. It's so powerful. And I don't think it's addressed as much as I would like it to be addressed, to be quite honest. I think there's so much power in fasting, and it's just, we don't hear about it all that much. But
We don't, and I think mostly because people don't want to do it. It's
I
hard.
know,
It is
right.
not easy business,
Exactly. Just the whole point of it.
which
To
is the
give
whole.
up the ease of ourselves. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the last thing the devil wants you to do.
Oh,
Is
exactly. Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's the last thing, Venus. The power
Mhm.
is amazing.
Mhm.
You were talking about personal powerhouse, and I wanna end on this question. What advice can you leave with young people out there, which I'm sure you do this all the time, being a part of Personal Powerhouse, that want to make a career out of faith-based acting?
My number one thing is to know your boundaries and make them known. And by know your boundaries, I mean physically write it on paper, because when you're writing it out, you have to finish your thought in order to put a period or to put it in words.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, know what you will and won't do. Don't wait until you're in that situation where the money is tempting, or the person you're going to play that scene across from is like a goal of yours, or the status that's going to come with if you do this thing. So know what your boundaries are before you get in this pickle where something can influence you to do what you don't want to do. So write it
Yes.
down, and then also make it known. So when you're going to your acting classes or you're auditioning for something, make sure, or even getting an agent, be sure that you tell them what your boundaries are. Make sure they're okay with that, because if your agent isn't cool with you having those boundaries and they're going to submit you for all kinds of projects that don't line up for that, you shouldn't sign with them. You definitely need to find another agent. And if your acting coach is one of those who is like, well, that's great that you got your boundaries, but we've got all these scenes that we're going to do, and if you're not cool with it, you're just going to have to be cool with it. Like, you're going to have to figure it out. You don't need to sign up for that class. So make sure that these things are known. If you end up booking a role and then you read the entire script and you're like, oh, wow, didn't know my character was going that far, make it known, write them back, email them, say, hey, just so you know, this isn't my cup of tea. I didn't realize she was going to be doing X, Y, Z. Is there any way that we could possibly adjust the script, or would you like me to, would you like to work together on something in the future? So make sure that your boundaries are known, because this industry can be very tempting in a lot of different ways. And you don't want to be somebody who gives an inch and then before you know it, you've given an entire mile.
Yes.
That does not feel good in the end.
And Cameron Arnett, who's a part of Vindication, has a great story about that, and where God has taken him because of his stance for Christ, what he will not do,
Right.
regardless to the monetary gain. And that would
Mhm.
be something that young people should just go to CameronArnett.com, I believe. He talks about it. He has a number of stories. That's one of them. You should check it out. And finally, Venus, how can fans follow you on social media or by website?
Yeah. For me, I'm mostly on Facebook. So High Five Venus is how, facebook.com/High5Venus. That's my personal page. I used to have some other platforms, got rid of them. So that's the main one. And then if you go to personalpowerhouse.com, that's where you can find all of my stuff. There, all the links on Facebook, everything's there.
Actress Venus Monique of the hit crime drama Vindication, on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. Venus, thank you so much for being on the show. Cannot wait to see season 3 in its entirety. I'm working on it, and I just can't wait. And I highly advise you folks out there, if you've never seen Vindication, see it today. Go to Redeem TV, go to PureFlix or Amazon Prime, and get this series. You won't regret it. For Venus Monique, I'm Maurice Brown, and I pray the peace of Jesus Christ be with you and your families out there. You're listening to Bog Radio, and we'll see you next time around. Venus, may the peace of Christ be with you and your family, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Maurice.